Hey y'all, I have a whole 7 days worth of what's for dinner videos coming up. First night, here we are just putting some really yummy rub all over these turkey drumsticks that Jack is going to smoke. We did a couple of them with the honey lemon pepper, the seasoning I just held up. And then we got those all coated, and the other two, we decided to do more of just a regular barbecue rub, and that is. And to go with those drumsticks, I'm making some twice baked potatoes. So first, I put some olive oil in the bowl, add some kosher salt, and that is just going to be, I'll roll the potatoes in that. You'll see in a minute. First, you want to make sure you poke holes in your potatoes at least on two sides, like maybe 8 holes total, like two different sides, and that way they don't blow up in the oven. And then I also make some lima beans to go with that. And I always roll my bacon first so it's easier to separate between the two pieces. And I ended up cooking this in the oven. Less mess, crispy bacon, so much better. I've also air fried my bacon before, and I think that is a fantastic option too. Here I'm just putting my lima beans in the pot. I'm gonna just barely cover them with water and then get them on a low boil. I'm going to add in some Better Than Bouillon ham base. Add about a tablespoon-ish or so. And then I also add in about a tablespoon or so of garlic and Lowry's seasoned salt. Unsalted butter. I also will add in a little bit of the AP seasoning as well as a packet of sesame. I had about like half a packet left, and that's what I used in this pan of limas that I made. Add in some pepper, give it all a good stir, and just let them cook till they're done. So here I just remove the insides of all of the potatoes. In my mixer, I have the potatoes, I have some chives, cheese, I have bacon, and I set some cheese aside for the tops. This is one of my favorite like potato seasonings. And put some of that in there, get it all nicely combined. I also add in heavy cream, I'm sorry, half and half. And I think I also added in some sour cream just to make it even that much more creamy, and put it in the potatoes, and it'll all stand up and hold really well together. Mix this up, let it do its thing, and then I go and stuff all of the potatoes as high as I can get them. And then we'll sprinkle some cheese on top, and they go back in the oven for another 30-35 minutes until they are nice and hot and bubbly. And there is our plate. Gosh, dinner was absolutely delicious. Monday night, Jack and I had date night. It's something we do every now and then. Just we get out of work and we just want to go have dinner together. We just had tacos and all of the appetizers, if you will. The next night, I made some healthy salmon patties with some roasted red potatoes and asparagus. I'm sure you all know you always have to snap your asparagus. I like to put mine in a little bit of water with a little butter and a good amount of garlic. And I also use garlic powder just to kind of amp that flavor up some. And then a little bit of pepper and a tad bit of salt. Get them on the stove. I like to kind of boil them, simmer, if you will, blanch them until they are, I don't want to say mushy, but I don't like really crunchy asparagus. Here's the little tater spud seasoning that I'm going to be using on my red potatoes. And then get that on there, toss them in olive oil, add a little onion powder and garlic powder, along with a little bit of paprika. Get that all really well mixed. Put it on a sheet pan lined with parchment paper and pop those babies in the oven. Here I am just finely mincing, if you will, some salmon fillets. I am adding onion and garlic powder, an egg. I add in some chia seeds and then salt and pepper. That's just to kind of help bind them. I'm using just a small, barely even a palmful of panko breadcrumbs. That's just another binder. There's my asparagus, all nicely steamed. I'm going to put a pan over medium heat, pour in my avocado oil. And here I barely even just kind of formed these. I just kind of made them kind of fit in my hand a little bit. And that way they would just kind of sit, they'll crisp up and they'll get a lot more stable as they cook. And there is our healthy salmon patties, our roasted potatoes, and our asparagus. And that was dinner for Tuesday night. Wednesday, I decided to make a creamy chicken and wild rice soup. This is something that I have made quite a few times, and it's just absolutely delicious. You're going to take a few carrots, celery, stalks, and onion, get it all sliced up, put up into the pot with some chicken broth and, of course, some garlic and other seasonings and things like that. A little salt. There is the rice. I used, I think, about 2/3 of a cup of the wild rice. Yes, it looks like birdseed. Pour that in, bring it up to a boil, and then I'm going to add in my chicken thighs. Put these in. Again, you're going to bring it up to a boil. To the side, you're going to mix in some, like 3 tablespoons of butter, 3 tablespoons of cornstarch, and you're going to whisk that all together, kind of like making a roux. And then once that is all mixed in and the flour is cooked out and there's no raw flour taste, you're going to add in a cup of half and half or heavy whipping cream, whichever. And you get it all mixed in, stirred together, and let that kind of start to thicken. You'll let it reduce. Pull out your chicken. I like to just chop mine up at this point. I get it all chopped, and then before I add the chicken back in, I am going to add in this kind of roux that we made. It looks kind of clumpy, but you're just going to make sure to keep stirring it and all the clumps will cook out. I actually decided to shred the chicken, chop it, shred it, pretty much same thing. Just get it into small bite-sized pieces. Let that come up to a simmer, and I added in just like a handful of kale. I'm not crazy about spinach in soups. It leaves like this film on your teeth, and we just don't care for it. So I added a couple handfuls of kale in, and then that is our dinner. It was so good and so comforting. This night, we just, I picked Caden up from school and I just decided, why don't we just make some mini pizzas? I had absolutely no clue what we were going to have for dinner that night. So this is what we did. Bought some ground beef and get that seasoned up. Oh, and look at the mug that my puppy bought me. It's so true. I can fall asleep to Forensic Files, but only the first. The first one is narrated by Peter Thomas, and I really can't always fall asleep to when his voice is on. So I get the ground beef all browned up. I am adding some marinara sauce to these little pizzas. I think I got a thin crust and Jack and Kay got a regular thick crust, if you will. We all wanted pepperoni, so you'll see here I'm just putting pepperoni on all of our little pizzas. I think also, I can't remember if I wanted the bell pepper or Jack maybe wanted the bell pepper. I know we all ate red onions on it, and then here I'm just going to sprinkle over some of that cooked and chopped up ground beef. Get that all over our pizzas, add some mozzarella. And I also found this bread at Ingles. It was okay, it wasn't the best, but there's our pizzas. Dinner was delicious and easy. Here I'm making some smothered pork chops in the crock pot. I'm getting a can of cream of chicken, filling up that can with some low sodium chicken broth, giving that a mix in the can to try to get the rest of the cream of chicken. I've made this recipe several times. It is always a hit. We all love it, and it's just a comfort food for us. Then I add in a Lipton onion soup mix packet, some garlic powder, onion powder, and a little bit of black pepper. Give all that a mix, and then you're going to end up pouring this all over the pork chops, and it seriously, they just soak up all of that goodness. There's our little boy, sea creature in the background. He's under my feet all the time, wondering and hoping if something's going to drop from the kitchen counter. I decided to just make some rice with it. I always put something in the rice, whether it's like a chicken bouillon or vegetable or beef, just depends on what exactly I'm making as the main meal for the sides to be rice. It just depends on how I season it. Next, I've got some broccolini, and I'm just going to cook this in the air fryer. It's how I've made broccoli and asparagus in other videos. I'm going to, of course, use the vegetable seasoning, garlic powder, AP, a little bit of lemon juice. It wanted to give me a hard time, so I'm like fighting to get it open. Add some lemon juice and toss it all around. Give it a good stir. Make sure everything is fully incorporated and combined. Add on some Parmesan cheese and just some pepper. Give it all a really good mix again. Toss it into the air fryer. Just kind of shake it every 5 minutes. It should be only like 370, 15 minutes. And then we have our plates here. Everything was so good. Pork chops, rice, and broccoli. Hey y'all, happy Saturday. My husband had a crazy wild idea that he wanted lobster macaroni and cheese tonight for dinner. So that's what we're about to do. Stay tuned and I'll show you how I do it. First things first, I am here just sauteing up a little bit of onion. I'm going to add some salt to bring out the natural juices in the onion and give that a stir. Once it's pretty much translucent, I'm going to add in a little bit of garlic. My pasta, as you can see, has already been cooked. I am whisking in some flour and some milk to make a roux. And then I remove that from the heat and add in my cheese. Here's Jack just removing the lobster from the shell. And then just put this on top and kind of incorporate it a little bit. And then we put this on 425 for about 15 minutes or so. The lobster is already cooked, so it didn't need to be really cooked at all. But there it is. Add some parsley on top and some breadcrumbs, and it was delicious. Here is my epic fail of a prime rib. I cooked this at 500 for about 2.5 hours. You're supposed to rub it all, the seasonings and the butter and all of that. You put olive oil on so that it'll hold the seasonings. And then you're supposed to bake it at 5 minutes per pound. And this was about a 5 pound roast. So this would have been 20 minutes at 500. And then after that, you turn off the oven and you leave it closed. You do not open the oven for another 2 hours. And it is always the best fail-proof prime rib. But this day we had my parents over and we were celebrating my dad's birthday and we were trying to do some stuff around the house before they came over, and I completely did not turn off the oven. I turned off the timer, but not the oven. So that being said, this prime rib was dry, but then we added some gravy and I made it all better. There's always ways you can try to salvage food, even overcooked and pretty much burnt roast. So I get all this slathered all over it, and then I get it put into my baking sheet and do as I say, not as I did. 5 minutes per pound on 500, and then when it's done, you'll turn off the oven, set the timer for 2 hours. Do not open the oven. And then you're going to slice it against the grain once it's out of the oven and it has rested. So then I'm going to put this into my baking dish. I just have a deep 2-inch 9 by 13 pan to my right. Let me get this put in there. And then I'm also going to just sprinkle a little bit of salt on top for the extra crunch that it did need had I cooked it correctly. Here's my green bean recipe. I just bought some fresh green beans. The ends are snipped, and I got them in a little bit of water here, just barely covering them. And I'm going to bring this up to a boil and simmer them for about 5 minutes. It's a little longer than blanching, obviously, but you know, this is just how we all like them. Add some salt, give that a good mix. And then once they're finished, I drain them. I add in some sesame oil and some minced garlic and start cooking that. And then you're going to add in a mixture of soy sauce, white balsamic vinegar, or just regular balsamic vinegar, and a little bit of sugar. And you're going to toss the green beans all together in the sesame oil along with the garlic and let it just start to get really fragrant. You want to fully coat those green beans. And then once they're fully coated, you will go ahead and pour in the mixture that we made up and bring this up to a simmer. You want that liquid to kind of thicken. It will over the next few minutes. And there's the green beans, super delicious. And then I just made some packet gravy to go along with our prime rib to try to give it some juiciness, some kind of moisture to it since it was definitely lacking. So here I'm just gonna go ahead and make up some quick packet gravy. There's our dinner. It was really good. Like I said, everything had great flavor. The roast was just a little bit dry. So that is all for this week's What's for Dinner. I hope that you got some recipes that you can make for your family this coming week. And I will see you guys next Sunday, and I'll have a new video for you then. Have a great rest of your day and a great week ahead. Bye, y'all.